is our pleasure to welcome our next guest to the program. She is the chairman of the LA County Republican Party, who you can follow on X at Roxanne Hoge. Roxanne Hoge, welcome.
Next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot where I was for a second. Thank you guys for having me today.
Well, thank you so much for stopping by. There's so much to get into. Let's start out with the news that we led the show with today, which is that the money is starting to pour in on both sides for and against Proposition 50, which is the proposition that we'll be voting on this November that would redraw the congressional district lines, disregard what the independent commission came up with, and produce a Democratic gerrymander that could gain 5 additional seats for the party of Jefferson and Jackson. What do you make of Proposition 50? What do you think is going to ultimately end up happening with it?
Like all propositions that are put before Californians, it's completely confusing. If it's named, the Puppies and Kittens Act, it'll allow the rape of an unconscious woman, like Prop 4757 did. So this one is no different. And what's crazy is people on both sides are confused. It's kind of like the gas tax, right? So vote no to really preserve democracy, but vote yes to upend the Constitution, but temporarily. By the way, the fact that they say temporarily is right up there with, the check is in the mail. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. Oh, it's not you, it's me. Like, let's stop falling for this, people. It's not temporary.
No, and anything that's sold as temporary never is, just like when Jerry Brown raised our taxes.
Yeah. So it's, what's really distressing about it is that Sacramento and California Democrats just keep proving over and over again that they don't actually want to earn and to lead, right? They don't want to earn respect. This isn't about Republican versus Democrat, by the way. I'm, head of the LA GOP, and I understand that we're in the super minority, but it's interesting to me that just when, speaking of minorities, black and brown people started taking a step to the right, all of a sudden, all hands on deck, DCCC comes in and says, let's redraw the maps.
What do you think is going to happen to turnout? Because we're not used to voting in November of odd years. Many people cannot understand what is going to be in the language. It's purposely meant to deceive us. So even if you're trying to read it and figure out what it means, you're probably going to come to the wrong conclusion. Usually, if people are confused and they're not used to voting in a particular month, what happens is turnout falls off a cliff. Do you think turnout's going to be very low in this election?
I hope it's going to be very low for the left because they'll get complacent. What I plan to do and what all of Los Angeles County common sense conservatives and liberals who've been mugged should do is go to lagop.org and sign up to volunteer to talk to other people and get their ballots in. This is one thing I just have to beg our side to do. Ballots are going to drop October 6th. Vote October 6th. Turn them in October 6th. Here's the other reason. You were talking about the ad dollars that are going to be following everyone. The sooner you get your ballot in, the sooner those texts and phone calls and huge oversized mailers will stop.
How much money do you think is going to be spent on this thing? I've been hearing it's going to be over $100 million on both sides.
I don't doubt it. They God, it would be great to be a political consultant. These people just sort of print money. And the crazy thing is when it comes down to it, the amount of money spent per vote is going to be astronomical. Why don't you just give everybody a Starbucks gift card and call it a day? But the truth is that I think it's going to be just like Prop 36, right? The establishment in Sacramento and every, doctrinaire California Democrat was against making crime illegal, which is already a bizarre thing to take on. The fact that they're selling this as a way to be more balanced when the congressional delegation is out of 54 people, only 9 will disagree with your side. It's a hell of a take, and let's just see how it works out for them.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this thing passes, how much resentment is created in places like the North State, where they currently have congressional districts up there that have people who live in their communities and certainly listen to those communities. And you're going to take those districts and you're going to redraw them in ways so that the population centers in places like Marin County and the North State has no representation in the Congress at all. If they already hate Sacramento today, just take away their voice in the Congress, take away their ability to impact change of any kind, and I think the resentment is going to go off the charts.
Oh, 100%. And that's going to be across the board. When you say to people, hey, we have a constitutionally mandated independent citizens redistricting committee, and they're trying to upend that, they don't like that. So the challenge is to let people know that. The other thing that's crazy is they're making an already confusing thing more confusing. If you live in, say, Huntington Beach, you should understand who your congressperson is and where to find them. And they're making the splits and the drawings so crazy that people are going to have to drive like 4 hours to down the coast to, from the north to get to a district office. None of it makes sense. And so it has to pass the reasonable person test. The other thing is, even if it does pass, it's going to be, someone's going to sue again. Now, the California circuit is always a little bit of a circus, and so tossed out immediately the challenges that came up. But it's going to be tied up for a while, and we're supposed to be having a primary election in May and June of 2026.
Here's my prediction. Gavin is going to do with Prop 50 the same thing that he did with the recall, which is in a one-party state, just try to make it a straight-up partisan vote. If you're a Democrat, vote yes. If you're a Republican, vote no. There are more Democrats than Republicans. So if that happens, Gavin wins. And I think he's going to try to make it as simple as that.
He is, but remember, he didn't win on Prop 36. People don't like being mugged, and they don't like having corrupt politicians stack the deck. I mean, I get that in our very lopsided state, people don't love conservatism, but they do know what fairness is. And people who are center left actually have a very finely tuned sense of, what's fair and what's right. And especially when they notice that minorities like myself are going to be disenfranchised by these maps, I think he's going to have some explaining to do.
We're speaking with Roxanne Hoge, the chairwoman of the LA County Republican Party. You can follow her on X at Roxanne Hoge. Roxanne, let's talk about Gavin Newsom here for a second, because his social media team has been quite aggressive at going after anyone who questions what Gavin Newsom is doing of any kind, including going after fire victims who say that the state didn't do what they should have done to prevent the fires and has not been helpful in getting them and allowing them to rebuild after the fires. One of those individuals is Spencer Pratt from reality television, who lost his home in the fire. And the governor's team has just been merciless in going after him, including this weekend posting an older picture of Spencer Pratt when he was younger and thinner, and a current picture where he's put on some weight and several years older, and was mocking his appearance, mocking the weight gain, mocking the aging process, mocking all of that, because they're upset with him for being critical of the state's performance regarding the fires. What do you make of that type of behavior?
They are Alinsky acolytes, pick a target, freeze it, personalize it. They're not just going after Spencer, who, by the way, is very intelligently reading all the bills, understanding everything. He doesn't just fly off the mouth at something. He is actually doing his homework and bringing real information to people who are in an incredibly vulnerable situation in their lives. They're also, by the way, this little trio of, I would call them middle schoolers, but that's unkind to middle schoolers. they have gone after people who defend him. So I defended Spencer this weekend, and then immediately Izzy, the bow-tied, naked mole rat-looking person, completely went after me with trolls and just disgusting commentary. I think they're taking the wrong lesson in their glee to say, look, we can be Trumpy. What Trump has behind him that Gavin doesn't have is actual acumen and the ability to deliver results. And Gavin Newsom has none of that. He can play a governor on TV, but his results are terrible.
Well, here's the other thing, too. You're always told in this business not to punch down. You're not supposed to go after people who are regarded as sympathetic. If you go after people who have it coming, that's one thing. If you go after someone who lost their house in a fire that was preventable and they're angry about that, it's not a good look for you. And it seems like he doesn't care about that. He just wants to attack anyone who's questioning him, regardless of whether or not they're sympathetic or not. And this is just the strategy. This is just what they're doing. I also get the impression that he's also just done with being governor of California, where looking bad for going after fire victims is something that's just not relevant to him anymore, because he doesn't have to run for office in California ever again. So if he offends the fire victims in the Pacific Palisades, who cares? He's looking at the Democratic primary where they get to vote in other states, not in California, or at least not in California at first. And that's just how he sees it.
Well, remember what Alex Michelson told you. We're not even sure that Gavin knows this is happening. I mean, he sort of gave them like, hey, do whatever you want. But I don't think he cares about details, as evidenced by the fact that reporters were invited into his office last week, and I don't think most of them had ever seen it, that he doesn't talk to anyone in the assembly, not Republicans certainly, but he doesn't even bother to talk to Democrats. And so he's continually being surprised by their bat guano crazy bills and begging them to either pull them or threatening to veto them. So he's never actually worked a day as governor, nor at any of the other jobs he purports to have had. He's a thirsty influencer, and God bless him in that. You know, go off into the sunset and podcast and maybe be the next Batman. But there's nothing good or positive that has come out of his quote-unquote governance.
I think from his point of view, he's being rewarded for it because he's shot up in the polls nationally in the Democratic primary. So he's looking at those numbers and saying, what I'm doing is working, so I'm going to continue to do it.
Oh, yeah, no. For Democrat boomers who like to, tell the likes of me, who's from Jamaica, that I should go back to where I came from because I had the temerity to become a conservative, they're eating this up. They think it's delicious. I don't think it'll play in, Peoria or Pennsylvania or any other swing states, but he's totally loving it. And yes, it's working for now.
Here's the other thing, too. There are certain elements of his strategy that look like the French army to me, where the French army loses all their wars because they're always fighting the last battle. When he runs for president in 2028, Donald Trump's name will not be on the ballot. He'll be running against J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio or whomever the Republicans decide to nominate. If you spend all of your time talking about someone whose name won't be on the ballot, you don't look like you're relevant. You don't look like you're in the now. You look like you're obsessed with yesterday's news. And whether or not he thinks that will be true in 2028, certainly he buys into the fact that Trump is going to be the dominant personality and the dominant figure in the 2028 election. And I'm just not sure that's true.
It's like WWF, right? He's nothing without the big scary orange man bad to go up against. And I just don't think there's that much there. Now, I don't discount the ability of people to be swayed by a finely creased pant leg and a charming smile. But I pray and hope that, unfortunately, what he's done for California is his calling card. And what he's done has been nothing good.
What do you think he does if he loses the Democratic primary for president? Certainly he doesn't care about California, so I can't imagine that he'll come back here and run for some other office. Willie Brown over the weekend speculated that Alex Padilla would run for governor and win, and then appoint Gavin Newsom to the United States Senate. I guess that's a possibility since Newsom appointed Padilla to the U.S. Senate when he had a vacancy to fill. What do you think Newsom ends up doing?
I think that's a, grotesque but good option for him. But the other thing is, a think tank foundation, or he goes off to live on the ranch with the in-laws in Wyoming or Montana and just becomes, the gentleman farmer character and just has lots of affairs and does whatever other recreational things he does.
Roxanne Hoge, chairwoman of the L.A. County Republican Party. If you want to follow her on X, you can do so at Roxanne Hoge. And if people want to find you online or the county party online, how can they do that?
That's LAGOP.org, and let's join the fight and take it to the Democrats and take it to the left and the people who want to corrupt the entire system of California.
Roxanne Hoge, chairwoman of the L.A. County Republican Party. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks, guys.